I want to share something that took me years of observing avoidant patterns in clinical environments to truly understand. It is one of those realizations that, once it becomes clear, changes the way you look at everything. Suddenly, the confusing conversations, the mixed signals, and the moments where you questioned whether the connection was even real start to make a different kind of sense. The avoidant does not usually communicate love in the same way that most people expect. They do not simply recognize their feelings and naturally move toward expressing them, the way someone with a secure attachment style often can. For a securely attached person, love and the way they show love usually move together. The emotions grow, the words come naturally, vulnerability feels challenging but possible, and their expression leaves little doubt about what they feel. With an avoidant person, the entire process often works in the opposite direction. The feelings can develop deeply, sometimes far more intensely than outsiders would ever assume. Many people mistake avoidance for a lack of emotion, but that is not always the reality. The problem is not necessarily that they feel less. It is that strong emotions can activate their internal defenses. As love becomes stronger, their instinct may not be to move closer and reveal more. Instead, their protective system may push them to hide, control, or redirect those emotions into safer forms of expression. The deeper the attachment becomes, the more their mind may search for ways to experience connection without exposing themselves to the vulnerability they fear. This is why avoidant people often express love through a language that many people were never taught to recognize. If you are trying to understand them through the emotional patterns of someone who openly communicates affection, reassures constantly, and speaks directly about their feelings, you may completely miss what they are actually showing you. Some of the things that appear confusing, distant, or even contradictory can sometimes be their unusual way of revealing attachment. Their words may not sound like traditional love statements, but underneath the surface, they can carry emotions they struggle to express openly. Today, I want to help you understand that hidden language. I want to break down the subtle things avoidant individuals often say and do when they have developed deep feelings for someone. Not the rare moments when their defenses temporarily disappear and they suddenly become emotionally direct, but the everyday behaviors that are easy to overlook. The small comments, the strange reactions, and the things that may sound like avoidance but can actually be attachment showing itself in a guarded form. Sometimes devotion does not arrive looking like devotion. Sometimes it appears wearing the mask of distance, hesitation, or emotional protection. The first thing an avoidant may say when they are deeply attached is often something that sounds like an unnecessary criticism. At first, this can feel confusing. You might wonder why someone who cares about you would point out little things about you. But there is something important happening beneath the surface. When an avoidant begins paying attention to the tiny details of who you are, not just the obvious qualities everyone notices, but the personal, specific things that make you uniquely you, it reveals a level of awareness that requires emotional investment. They may comment on the way you hold your drink, the expressions you make when telling a story, or the subtle changes in your voice when you talk about something you genuinely love compared to something you are only pretending to enjoy. They notice patterns. They remember details. They observe the little differences that most people would completely miss. Sometimes their way of showing interest comes out as analysis or critique because that feels safer than openly saying, "I pay close attention to you because you matter to me." For an avoidant person, noticing you deeply can be a form of emotional closeness. Their mind may turn observation into the language they are most comfortable using. What sounds like judgment on the outside can sometimes be evidence that they have been quietly studying, understanding, and emotionally connecting with you in ways they do not know how to openly admit. They start recognizing patterns about you, and then they express those observations in a way that can come across as a criticism instead of what it really represents underneath. What is actually happening is that they are revealing how closely they have been paying attention. That level of awareness does not come from emotional distance. It comes from someone who has become deeply present in their thoughts. When a person begins occupying a meaningful place in someone's inner world, their small habits, reactions, expressions, and unique qualities become impossible to ignore. People do not memorize the details of someone they feel nothing toward. They do not study the little things about someone who is irrelevant to them. An avoidant who has developed strong feelings often finds themselves constantly noticing you. But because directly admitting, "I think about you all the time and I feel deeply connected to you," can feel overwhelming, that emotion often gets translated into observations instead. The second thing an avoidant may say when they are already deeply attached is something like, "I'm not good at this." On the surface, those words can sound like a warning sign. It may seem like they are preparing you for disappointment or creating an escape route before they eventually pull away. Many people interpret it as the avoidant saying, "Do not expect too much from me." But when this statement appears during a relationship where emotional closeness is growing, it often carries a much deeper meaning. It can be their indirect way of saying, "I want to do this right with you, but I am scared that I won't know how." The vulnerability hidden inside that sentence is something they may not even recognize themselves. They often believe they are simply being honest or realistic. They may think they are protecting you by admitting their struggles. But beneath that honesty is something much more revealing. They are comparing themselves to the level of care, commitment, and emotional presence they believe the relationship requires. They are wondering whether they are capable of giving you what you deserve. That fear of falling short only appears when something truly matters. People do not spend time questioning whether they are enough for someone they feel disconnected from. They worry about being enough for the people whose loss would actually affect them. The fear itself can reveal the depth of their emotional investment. The third thing an avoidant often says when they are developing real feelings is some version of, "You are different." Those words can appear in many forms. Sometimes they come with genuine admiration, almost like they are surprised by what they are experiencing. Other times they may sound confused, defensive, or even frustrated, as if your differences have disrupted the emotional balance they were used to maintaining. They may say it casually in the middle of another conversation, almost as if they are trying to hide how significant the statement really is. But regardless of how it is delivered, hearing that you are different can be one of the strongest signs that you have affected them in a way they did not expect. Avoidant individuals often develop strong emotional strategies for keeping people at a comfortable distance. They learn how to predict situations, categorize relationships, and maintain control by understanding what to expect from others. Familiar patterns feel safer because they reduce uncertainty. But when someone enters their life who does not fit those old patterns, their usual defenses begin to struggle. When someone responds differently than expected, offers a type of connection they are unfamiliar with, or reaches deeper than they anticipated, the avoidant cannot easily place that person into their usual emotional categories. Saying, "You are different," becomes their way of expressing that something about you has challenged the system they normally rely on to protect themselves. It means you have created an experience they cannot simply explain away. You have become someone who does not fit into the emotional boxes they have built over time. Your presence creates a sense of curiosity, uncertainty, and emotional disruption, because their old methods of staying detached no longer work as easily. In many ways, those words are not just a description of you. They are an acknowledgement that their own internal world is changing because of the connection they have with you. It means you have reached a part of them that most people never get access to. Not completely, because avoidant defenses are rarely removed all at once. Their emotional barriers are built in layers, and each layer exists for a reason. Developing love with an avoidant person is usually not a simple or predictable journey. It is often filled with moments of closeness followed by moments of hesitation. But if you have reached the point where their understanding of relationships has to change because of you, that is significant. You have become something their mind cannot easily categorize or dismiss. You have entered a space where their old emotional patterns are no longer enough, and they have to expand their ability to connect rather than simply rely on the defenses they have always used. For someone with avoidant tendencies, that kind of internal shift is incredibly meaningful. The fourth thing I want to explain is one of the most confusing statements an avoidant can make, and that is some version of, "I don't need anyone." When this appears while a connection is becoming deeper, it is often not a simple declaration of independence. In many cases, it is a reaction to becoming aware of the exact thing they fear most, emotional dependence. The avoidant who suddenly emphasizes how self-sufficient they are when they are clearly becoming attached is not always describing their reality. They are trying to regain control over an emotional experience that feels unfamiliar and overwhelming. What is happening internally is that they have started noticing changes within themselves. They realize they think about you when you are not around. They notice that your absence affects them differently than before. They begin to feel the emotional impact of someone becoming important in their life. And for someone who has spent years protecting themselves by depending only on themselves, that realization can feel threatening. The idea of needing another person can activate fear because it represents vulnerability, uncertainty, and the possibility of loss. So the mind quickly tries to restore the old identity. I am independent. I do not rely on anyone. I cannot be hurt if I do not need anyone. But the very intensity of that reaction reveals something important. People do not strongly defend themselves against feelings that are not there. The need to deny attachment often appears because attachment has already begun. The fifth thing, and perhaps one of the most revealing signs of hidden affection, is when an avoidant protects you in situations where they could have easily stayed uninvolved. It is usually not some dramatic romantic gesture or an obvious declaration of love. Instead, it appears in small, almost invisible moments. They might defend you when you are not there to defend yourself. They may make a situation easier for you without expecting recognition. They may quietly remove an obstacle, support your position, or consider your feelings before making a decision. These actions can seem ordinary because they are often presented that way. The reason they present them so casually is because openly revealing the emotional meaning behind those actions may feel too vulnerable. Saying, "I did this because your comfort matters to me," or "I care about making your life easier," can expose a level of tenderness they are not always comfortable expressing. So instead, the care comes through behavior rather than words. They do something protective, supportive, or thoughtful, and then act as if it was nothing special. But the action itself tells a different story. When someone consistently considers your well-being, especially when there is no immediate benefit for them, it shows emotional investment. For an avoidant person, these quiet acts of protection can sometimes reveal feelings that their words are not yet ready to admit. Over the years, I have come to understand something important about the way people express love. The actions someone takes when they have no obligation to take them, and the things they do without seeking recognition or praise, often reveal more than the words they struggle to say. The avoidant who quietly looks out for you, who helps you without making it a performance, and who offers care without expecting anything in return, is communicating in the only emotional language they currently know how to use. Their love may not always arrive through open declarations or obvious affection. Sometimes it appears through small choices, subtle efforts, and moments where they place your well-being into consideration without ever announcing that they are doing it. But there is something important you need to remember while understanding all of this. Learning to recognize the hidden ways an avoidant may express love can bring clarity, but it should not mean that you have to spend your entire life interpreting signals and searching for meaning behind every action. Understanding their emotional language can help you avoid painful misunderstandings. It can prevent you from assuming that every moment of distance means they do not care, that every criticism means rejection, or that every statement about independence means they have no feelings for you. Seeing the deeper reasons behind their behavior can be valuable. It can help you understand the person behind the defense. But there comes a point where understanding cannot replace the need for honest, direct communication. Even the person who becomes highly skilled at reading avoidant behavior deserves to experience love that does not require constant analysis. You deserve affection that reaches you clearly. You deserve words that support the feelings behind the actions. You deserve a connection where your mind does not have to stay constantly alert, searching for hidden meanings or trying to decode what someone is unable to say. Love should eventually become a place where your nervous system feels safe, not a place where you are always studying signs and waiting for confirmation that you matter. The avoidant who truly cares is capable of change. That possibility is real. A person who has spent years protecting themselves through emotional distance can learn to become more open, more expressive, and more willing to communicate directly. They can learn that vulnerability does not always lead to pain, and that allowing someone closer does not mean losing themselves. But that transformation requires personal work that nobody else can complete for them. They have to face the deeper wounds, fears, and beliefs that made emotional openness feel dangerous in the first place. No amount of patience, love, or understanding from another person can do that inner work on their behalf. What you can do is recognize what was real when you experienced it. Do not erase the meaningful moments simply because they were complicated. Do not convince yourself that every caring action meant nothing just because the person struggled to express themselves openly. The attention you received, the small ways they showed concern, the moments where they allowed themselves to be seen, and the quiet ways they tried to protect the connection were not meaningless. They came from somewhere genuine, Someone with avoidant tendencies who falls deeply in love can be one of the most privately devoted people you encounter. Their feelings may exist strongly beneath the surface, while their ability to express those feelings remains limited by fear and self-protection. They may feel more than they know how to communicate. They may care more than they know how to demonstrate. But whether you choose to stay and see if they grow into a more open version of themselves, or whether you choose to honor your own need for consistency, reassurance, and emotional clarity, both choices are valid. What matters most is that you trust your own experience. The moments between the words, the attention they gave you, the effort they made, the protection they offered, and the emotions you felt were not something you simply imagined. It may have been imperfect love, it may have been cautious love, it may have been love hidden behind fear, uncertainty, and emotional walls, but that does not make it fake. Sometimes love arrives in complicated forms, and sometimes the hardest part is recognizing that something can be real while still acknowledging that it may not yet be everything you need. You are not wrong for feeling it. You are not wrong for seeing it, even when the confusion around it made you question yourself. The idea of an avoidant expressing love through indirect channels refers to the way some people communicate emotions without directly stating what they feel. Instead of saying, "I care about you," or openly showing vulnerability, their feelings may appear through actions, small efforts, attention to details, or practical forms of support. This can happen because direct emotional expression may feel uncomfortable, overwhelming, or risky for someone who has learned to protect themselves from emotional exposure. Their care may come through behaviors that seem ordinary on the surface but carry deeper meaning when you understand their emotional patterns. The concept of translation in relationships refers to the process of understanding someone's behavior beyond the obvious interpretation. When someone has difficulty expressing emotions openly, their actions can sometimes be misunderstood. A moment of silence may not always mean rejection, and a need for space may not always mean a lack of care. However, translation does not mean excusing every behavior or constantly searching for hidden meanings. It simply means developing awareness of the emotional patterns behind someone's reactions while still recognizing your own needs. The phrase "love in a form you do not have to decode" represents the importance of emotional clarity. A healthy connection is not built only on one person trying to understand and interpret the other person's hidden feelings. Over time, love also needs openness, honesty, reassurance, and communication that both people can understand. While subtle actions can be meaningful, a person should not have to spend all their energy analyzing every interaction just to feel secure in a relationship. The idea of a nervous system remaining on alert connects to the emotional state where someone constantly searches for signs of safety or danger in a relationship. When communication feels uncertain, a person may become highly focused on small changes in behavior, trying to predict what will happen next. This can create emotional exhaustion because the mind stays in a constant state of monitoring instead of experiencing peace and connection. The concept of growth in an avoidant person refers to the possibility that emotional patterns are not permanent. Someone who struggles with vulnerability can learn healthier ways of connecting through self-awareness, reflection, and personal development. Growth does not mean changing their entire personality. It means becoming more comfortable with emotional honesty, learning to express needs, and understanding that closeness does not always lead to losing independence. The phrase "the wound that made direct love feel dangerous" refers to the deeper emotional experiences that may influence a person's relationship with intimacy. Some people develop protective habits because closeness, dependence, or vulnerability felt unsafe at some point in their life. These defenses may have helped them cope in the past, but they can create difficulties when they try to build deeper emotional connections later. The idea of indirect declarations describes the moments when feelings are communicated without being spoken clearly. A person may show affection through remembering small details, making time, offering help, protecting someone's feelings, or quietly being present. These actions can reveal emotional investment, but they are still different from openly expressing love through words and honest conversations. The phrase "imperfect, frightened, complicated love" highlights that genuine feelings can exist alongside emotional struggles. A person can care deeply and still have fears, insecurities, or difficulty communicating. Love itself does not automatically remove emotional barriers. Sometimes feelings develop faster than someone's ability to handle those feelings, which creates a conflict between wanting connection and wanting protection. The idea of choosing yourself refers to maintaining your own emotional well-being while understanding another person. Caring about someone's struggles does not mean abandoning your own needs. A relationship requires balance, where both people's emotions, boundaries, and needs are respected. Understanding someone's fears can create compassion, but it should not require you to ignore your own desire for stability, honesty, and emotional security. The idea of recognizing what was real refers to the importance of separating the difficulty of a relationship from the reality of the emotions that existed within it. Sometimes, when a connection becomes confusing or painful, people begin questioning every positive moment they experienced. They may convince themselves that the affection, attention, or care was meaningless because the relationship did not unfold the way they hoped. But emotions and outcomes are two different things. A person can genuinely care about someone and still struggle with communication, commitment, or emotional availability. Understanding this helps someone honor their own experience without needing to rewrite the entire story. The concept of quiet devotion describes a form of attachment that is expressed through subtle actions rather than obvious displays of emotion. Some people are not naturally expressive with words, but they show importance through consistency, remembering details, offering support, or making adjustments for someone they care about. Quiet devotion does not always mean someone is ready for a fully healthy relationship, but it can indicate that the person has developed emotional significance towards someone. Their feelings may exist internally, even when their ability to communicate those feelings outwardly is limited. The phrase emotional walls represents the protective barriers people create around themselves to avoid feeling exposed, rejected, or hurt. These walls are often not built because someone does not want connection, but because connection itself may feel threatening. A person may desire closeness while simultaneously fearing what closeness requires: vulnerability, trust, dependence, and the possibility of disappointment. Emotional walls can protect someone from pain, but they can also prevent them from fully experiencing the intimacy they want. The concept of being seen refers to the experience of allowing another person to understand parts of you that are usually hidden. For someone who has learned to stay emotionally guarded, being truly seen can feel both comforting and uncomfortable. It creates a sense of connection because someone finally understands them, but it can also create fear because being known means becoming vulnerable. When an avoidant person allows moments of openness, even small ones, it can represent a significant movement beyond their usual defenses. The idea of emotional clarity refers to the ability to understand where you stand in a relationship without constantly searching for answers. Clarity does not mean that every person communicates in exactly the same way, but it does mean that both individuals can express their feelings, intentions, and needs with honesty. Without clarity, one person may end up carrying the responsibility of understanding, waiting, and interpreting, while the other remains protected from emotional discomfort. The phrase "trusting your own experience" highlights the importance of not allowing confusion to erase your personal reality. When someone receives mixed signals, they may begin doubting their own feelings and memories. They may wonder if they misunderstood the connection or imagined moments of closeness. Trusting yourself means acknowledging what you experienced while also remaining open to the full picture. It means recognizing both the meaningful moments and the challenges without denying either side. The concept of love hidden behind fear describes situations where emotions exist but are influenced by protective reactions. A person may feel affection, attachment, or care while also experiencing fear about what those emotions require from them. The fear does not necessarily remove the feeling. Instead, it can affect how the person responds to it. This creates a situation where someone may move closer emotionally while appearing distant behaviorally. The idea that something can be real and still not be enough is an important distinction in relationships. A connection can contain genuine feelings, meaningful memories, and authentic care, but that does not automatically mean it provides everything both people need. Love is not only about what someone feels internally, it is also about how those feelings are expressed, supported, and experienced by both individuals. Recognizing this allows someone to appreciate what was real while still honoring their own standards for a fulfilling relationship.